We wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of questions that I've been asked because it's kind of come to my attention that we're now YouTube influencers, Ted.
Yeah, with our tens of hundreds of viewers,
Oh,
we're
my.
getting famous.
Yeah. And so I'm Dr. Bill.
And I'm Ted.
But two of the questions that I've been asked more recently are number one, what is your favorite wine? And once again, if I stumble around about that, then say, well, what's your favorite wine region? Where do you like the wines that come from? And those questions are becoming increasingly hard to answer as we're beginning to get more experience. Certainly I am, but Ted's had so much experience over the years. I'd like for him to share some of his favorites and why they're favorites and tips for your enjoyment. Ted?
Well, I have gotten that question a lot of, what's your favorite whatever, be it wine or spirit or beer or whatever that may be. My answer is usually always the same, Doc. It's usually either what I have in my glass at the time or what somebody else bought for me. So I figured you were probably the muy simpatico on that. But, we like to be kind of out of the box thinkers on that. And that's what we try to do in some of these previous videos is kind of guide you on the path of how you can get a lot of bang for your buck and things that you can do to kind of maximize the return on your journey when you're getting into these things. And Doc, I think, would agree with me. Looking at certain regions or maybe just a little bit out of the norm is kind of, I think, where you get a lot of your greatest return on your investment on some of these wines and things like that.
And some of your greatest enjoyment.
Absolutely.
Surprisingly.
Absolutely. So, what we've got here today is kind of a great example of that. The first wine we're going to start out with is Gaia. This is actually by Jean Bousquet, and we've actually had, these wines featured on a few other little installments we've done, and they're a great little Argentinian producer. But this is kind of one of their upper end organic, wines. It's a blend. It's a lot of Malbec, a little bit of Syrah, a little bit of Cabernet in there. Should be able to pick it up for around $20 a bottle. But a great little kind of everyday catch-all little red wine. But keeping on that same trend, also in areas such as Argentina, you can get really, really high-end wines that will go head-to-head with the very best of the best of, Bordeaux or Napa Valley or some of these other really high-dollar, areas. And that leads us to our next one. This is Tapiz Black Tears Malbec. This is a Malbec that still is going to run you kind of in the high 50s range, but I would put this red head to head with any of the $200 Napa cabs and things like that you'll find out there that may be they're heavily highly rated and highly sought after and everything else, but they're also highly priced.
But even if you're a proponent of the movie Sideways,
well, it's a Malbec, so we're not necessarily going with a Merlot, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So the next thing to do, kind of along that same trend, if you do, want to get back to more of the, what we've talked about in the past, location, some of the higher end areas of, say, Northern California, like Napa and Sonoma, look at really premium producers, but think a little outside the norm of what they're necessarily known for. That leads us to our next wine, and this is the only white wine we've got in this little lineup right now, but it is one of my absolute favorites, and this is the Mary Edwards Sauvignon Blanc. Now, Mary Edwards is a very, very, very well-respected winemaker out in California. She is paid literally hundreds of thousands of dollars pretty much to come in and just bless, most people's Pinot Noir. That's what she's known for, and has been making premium Pinot Noir out in Northern California for years and years and years. But actually her favorite wine, and I think one of the best wines that she makes, happens to be her Sauvignon Blanc. Fantastic Sauv Blanc if you want nice, crisp minerality, great citrus fruit up there, fantastic long finish. it is definitely one to look at and one to keep in mind. Doc was referencing, the movie Sideways, and they basically dogged out Merlot pretty bad in that movie. They're on the search for great Pinot Noir throughout that whole movie, which Pinot's great, but Merlot's not bad.
Well, I'm a little dyslexic today. I agree. Let's talk about this Merlot.
This Merlot that we've got right here, this is Lahota Merlot. Now, you talking about location. Now, this is some high dollar real estate. This is actually Howell Mountain, which is kind of a little subset of Napa Valley. Very, very, very high end, area. And this is actually made by Lahota Vineyards, which is the upper end of the Jackson family wines. You might know them as Kendall Jackson. But Jess Jackson wanted to have some pretty serious premium vineyards that he could invest in, and he did. And one of those was Lahota, which is up on Howell Mountain. But Howell Mountain Cab now is what they're kind of really known for. That's what Howell Mountain really does, and does considered by most experts as the best, is their Howell Mountain Cab. This is actually the Howell Mountain Merlot, and fantastic. Now, we're still talking about almost $100 bottle of wine here, but the Cabernet by the same maker and the same vineyard will run you close to 200. So we're kind of getting the same area, same location, same grape pedigree, but we're just kind of doing a different grape. And you can do that with a lot of different things. Rumbauer makes a Zinfandel that's fantastic. That's about half of what their Cabernet goes for. So kind of keep that in mind. But Doc, you got some other things?
I agree with all the things you said, and like we were discussing earlier, if I could drink anything, cost notwithstanding, I could probably list about 7 or 8 wines that would break anybody's bank that I could say, yeah, man, that's my favorite. But in fact, in reality, the key to it, I believe, is, like we've talked before, learn what type of wine you like. Learn your producers. Look for that, who's producing that wine, because the good producers are not going to make crappy wines. So look for those producers and get into your price point, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'm getting ready to go on location for about a month, and I want to bring some videos from a couple of areas, maybe Germany, maybe a little something from France and from Portugal. And I want to try to bring some additional and new wines to you to try. So when someone asks me about what's your favorite region, as I've traveled more and looked more, and Ted and I have talked more and tried different, there's some fantastic wines all over the world. And you're going to get better prices a lot of times, particularly if you look to South American and probably South African, which is another point I'm looking at later on this year. So enjoy your wine. You're not going to stump us when you ask the question, but we're going to probably say, well, we're not sure because of, then we'll give you a 30-minute discussion. So thanks for looking in on us. I hope you enjoyed what we're saying. It was instructive. I look forward to seeing you on my next crossing.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe. And if you got somebody that you think maybe wants to learn about wine or might be interested and watch two guys beat their gums about what they enjoy, please share these videos. We'd like to see and hear from you as often as possible.
And if you have questions, please voice them in your comments. We try to read them and respond. That's going to help us help you, and maybe be even more of a, become maybe even a, I don't know, a YouTube personality.
Could be. So
you never know.
Thanks.